In the next exercise, Ben will anchor his hips again, but this time lean backward. It's going to require you to tuck your chin in as much as possible so that you can lift from your crown as you expand your solar plexus. Notice that coccyx to the crown has not changed, the relationship, and relax all the way back into center. Ben's going to do this again. As he comes back, he's going to lift from the solar plexus and coccyx to the crown. Look, the relationship hasn't changed. And relax. Great, great exercises to focus upon lifting the vertebra apart. Lifting the vertebra apart. I'm going to turn to a rear view. Now Ben is going to lead to this inside foot, anchor his hips. Still the same relationship, leading from the crown. He's going to lift and pull while pushing the pelvis downward. And relax. And we're going to go to the other side. The same exercise, pushing the pelvis down and lifting and separating. And relax. Relax your arms. When you're carrying yourself about your daily activities, if you're depressed, literally, think of this in physiological terms. If you're depressed, that's going to determine your ability to breathe and your ability for movement potential. Now, when you consider Zdorovye as an entire integrated health system, your respiration, your alignment, your movement are all integrated. They determine your emotional state. We've all heard this comment. If you want to be happy, smile. Well, it goes much deeper than that. How you carry yourself, how you conduct yourself is your presence, your charisma, how you affect a crowd, how you interact with other people, your gesticulations, your facial calibrations. Everything is determined upon that integration. It all comes from the core. Polygenia is most important because how we determine this alignment determines everything else that happens. It's an integrated health system. When you're working on these exercises, I want you to focus upon stretching and orienting coccyx underneath crown. Remember, we act upon forces of the gravitational field of living on the planet Earth. These forces act upon us to conduct ourselves with poise throughout them. Focus on these polygenia exercises. In the next exercise, Ben is going to roll one shoulder back and one shoulder forward and anchor his hips. Now we've done this with the shoulders already, but now Ben is going to lift upward with the solar plexus, crown to coccyx. It's a more complex exercise because you're involving twisting motion. And relax. But although there's a twisting motion, it's still lifting. It's still lifting. The orientation of coccyx to crown remains the same. This is important because our daily activities are three-dimensional. None of us are two-dimensional creatures. In a three-dimensional world, we need twisting and lifting. So again, now rolling back, rolling forward, anchoring the hips and lifting. Look at the relationship. Leading up from the coccyx, the crown pulls upward and relax. We've worked the shoulders, we've worked the mid-spinal region. Now we're going to concentrate on the lower spine, the lower back. To do that, the operation comes from the hips, just as if when we worked with the upper spine, the operation came from the shoulders. So, pelvis, the orientation of the pelvis. For most men, this is going to be challenging. For most women, you're going to find that there's a lot more range of motion that we discovered and recovered in Dvizhenie. But in Polygenia, we're going to be focusing once again upon crown on top of coccyx. Crown on top of coccyx. So in the first, we're going to tilt the pelvis forward and underneath. Scott's going to secure his pelvis in place and tilt deep underneath. You're going to see that his knees have to bend. You should be feeling like your pelvis is going to roll up your body. And relax. It's a deep roll from your pelvis. And watch the respiration. You can do this again. Roll and tuck underneath. Lower breath. We're going to be covering this in Dvizhenie, but what I want you to concentrate on and relax is the full range of motion. When we go through all of these exercises, I want you to focus upon 8 directions. Now, we went over these in Dvizhenie, but I want you to see the orientation. We covered this front angle. Now we're going to come to a rear angle and arch backwards so the coccyx is lifting up. When you arch back, there's a roundedness in your spine. You have to push back and arch. Some of us who have a lot of driving, and relax, a lot of driving to do If you're at your workplace a great deal, you have no mobility in your lower back because we're isolated in our daily activities. These type of exercises, you'll feel where the motion is limited and how to regain that for your alignment. And again, arching backwards, Scott is securing his pelvis in place, lifting from his solar plexus, keeping the crown on top of the coccyx, and relax. Now I'm going to turn him to the side here so that you can see the next two angles. The next two angles are side to side. We did front, back, now side to side. So first to one side, he's still in place, but he's pushing over to one leg, pushing the pelvis down on one side and lifting on the other. And relax. To the other side. Notice that the relationship is still the same on the spine, but by this twisting motion, we're keeping the relationship of our spinal column intact through a twisting motion. And relax. The next four are going to be a little challenging. If you picture from the Volume, we know this, the body splits into here in a sagittal plane that goes outward. It cuts in two parts. Turn this way. We also know that the body cuts in two parts here. We have a frontal plane, front and back. That creates four quadrants, like we discussed already. Those four quadrants are what we're going to move towards now. Beginning with the third quadrant, we're going to move in a back direction. This is a twisting and a sideward motion. So you're going to feel the pelvis lift. The pelvis, its actual orientation, and relax. And Scott's going to move to the next quadrant, quadrant 4. The pelvis is actually moving like an hourglass. That is our locomotion. Efficient locomotion, and relax. Efficient locomotion is resting the spine on top of one another while these drivers act like a piston, your pelvis. And back to quadrant 3. Push, bear down on your pelvis so that you're lifting and pushing down on the opposite side. And relax. And back into quadrant 4. Lifting and bearing down. And relax. This is probably one of the most important exercises that you're going to find because most people have lost the motion in their pelvis from daily activity, from sitting behind a computer, from driving all of the time, and from general lack of social permission to have fluidity and movement in the hips. We covered a lot of this in Volume. If you want to gain the apogee, the very extension of the motion, you have to work through polygenia to keep your alignment in space while you're moving the pelvis. I'm going to turn the relationship so that you can see from a different angle. Here is our frontal plane, here is our sagittal plane. As we move into quadrant 3, once again, it's bearing down and lifting from the pelvis. So you can see the line of his pelvis going up into the air at a 45-degree angle. And relax. And back into quadrant 4, pushing up and lifting down. And relax. We've covered 3 and 4, now we're going to cover 1 and 2. A main problem that people have is they don't feel the tension when they push their hip forward. They merely lean forward onto their toes. You have to lead from your pelvis. Remember, this is a pelvic-oriented exercise. So as we move over into the first quadrant and push forward, you can feel where you're leaning and stretching out on the pelvis. That's the very apogee of your motion. It keeps your alignment in place while you're expanding the motion of the pelvis. And relax. And back over to quadrant 2. And lifting and pushing so that you can actually feel where the end of the motion, the range of motion of the joint is. But this is usually dampened because we forget about this range of motion in our daily activities. And relax. So we have quadrant 1. And relax. Then a frontal tilt, directly front. And relax. Quadrant 2. And relax. To the side. And relax. Quadrant 3, back corner. And relax. Rear tilt. When the coccyx is arching. And relax. Quadrant 4. And relax. And then the final side. relax. So you've covered all 8 directions when you go through these exercises. Arms, head, shoulders, mid-spine, pelvis, now down to legs. Legs are going to be challenging. We went over some of the basic balance exercises that are necessary. This is balancing while keeping the relationship of your coccyx to crown. When we do these exercises, don't forget the most basic element of this is lifting from the solar plexus, keeping the crown on top of the coccyx. Everything in polygenia derives from that orientation. So, we're going to begin with the knee. The knee is closest to the trunk. As Ben starts with this exercise, he's going to push his knee forward. Notice how it expands out his pelvis, lifting from the crown to coccyx, and relax. Each time, remember, your objective is to keep the relationship of your crown to coccyx. Don't make these exercises just lifts. Stretch so that you're keeping the relationship in place. So we'll do this again. Lift and push from the knee. Outward, outward. And relax. I'm going to give you the other leg. He leans back and pushes with the knee. The relationship of his crown still leads upward. And relax. Each time, down towards the ground, lifting from the coccyx. Each time. The next position, we'll start with this leg, yes. And turn your leg outward. His heel is coming up so he can push with his knee. And relax. The hip expands like we just demonstrated just before. Hip expands forward so that now the knee has full range of motion. Okay? The relationship is still the same. We'll do the opposite leg. Push and expand and open up the crown to coccyx. And relax. The third position in this sequence is lifting the knee upwards to the side, twisting, and keeping the shin parallel to the plane of the earth. He's still going to push the pelvis outward and keep the alignment of his crown to his coccyx. And relax. We're going to give you the other angle so that you can see. The knee comes up, twists outwards, rotates so the shin is parallel to the earth, lifting from the crown all the way to the coccyx. And relax. Each time that you do this, remember, the orientation is bringing the crown and the coccyx apart so that you have this balance of your spinal relationship in motion of this position. Next, as the leg comes backwards, the heel, you can see, will come around in a circle. His crown lifts, so the coccyx is now opening up in a circle. And relax. The knee points down to the ground so that it can stretch apart the pelvis. On the opposite side, the knee pushes backward, down towards the ground, opens up the pelvis, leads from the crown. And relax. The next point, and what we're focusing on now, is we've pushed out from the knee. If we align the lower leg underneath the knee, those bony levers are pulling together in relationship along one vector. They're pulling along the same vector so that the spine is in relationship to our skeletal structure. And we discussed this a bit in Dvigenia, but when you're going through polygenia, what I want you to do is picture yourself as a structure that's balancing from the ground upward. If you want to balance the head, you have to get the body underneath it. So we've moved from the knee down to include the entire leg. The lower leg pushing out from the heel. That's going to be the relationship for the next module of exercises.